Okay, people, I'm just going to do a little quick video here as I'm sorting out Mr. Noodle, right? Because I did another small order at Canadian, well, nothing is small, but I did another order at Canadian Superstore. I got 4 more cans of salmon, and I did get some from, say, Walmart as well, but after that, I'm not getting no more. Anyway, maybe I'll just talk for a minute. I don't know. I feel like I've been extorted. I'll look up that word, make sure I'm using it correctly. I feel like I may be living in Mexico, or a place like, or Honduras, or a place like that, where you have, I guess they call it the cartels, right? You know, the MS-13s and the really deep-rooted gangs that hold households within a community to extortion. You either pay. If you don't pay what we want you to pay, you're going to get chopped up. Your family members might go missing. Somebody might die, right? You know, we're going to make it real hard for you. You might disappear. You might get beat up. Anything, people. So pay up. Pay up. All right. Now, I don't want to drag this out, but I'm like on the verge of freaking tears here. Okay? I've been on the verge of tears. I'm shaking. I don't feel very well. Literally. My eyes have gotten worse. All right, I'm just trying to put that where. My eyes have gotten worse. Right? I can't go to the doctor yet. I can't go to the eye doctor yet because I just don't know what's coming, people. And that's just a fact. All right. In 14 years, I was the only one that did any yard work because I cared enough to do it. Not only for my family to have a better quality of life, but to have a nice yard for the neighborhood, you know, to enjoy. Like I said, when the spring and summer come, the people from these complexes that live in these little boxes, they like to come to inside my yard with their children and feed the rabbits and just look around. I've gone open the door at night and I've seen people just stand on the walkway and get grounded. They're not doing anything. They're just standing there looking around. When everything's in bloom, that is. On the walkway. All right. Whatever. Okay, so they come and they get the bin. Now, let's just talk about the bin for a minute. I mentioned it before and I'm going to mention it again because this is crucial. Because I don't know who to believe. The only person that I believe in all of this, people, is Mr. Gill. He's the only person in all of this, that I believe in. Now, since the last time I seen him, he's aged. And, you know, I'm a little worried for him. Because I could hear it in his voice. Because of, like, you know, with Uncle John. I could hear it in Uncle John's voice as he was getting to a certain point. And when Mr. Gill came and I was talking to him, I could hear it in his voice. He was still alert, still cognitive, still everything. But he's aging. All right. I believe what he said. I believe that he himself had nothing to do with this. I believe it from the bottom of my heart. All right. Outside of that, I don't know, people. It's a he said, she said, just whatever. Okay. So we know that the city of Surrey does not provide a proper annual spring cleanup. Okay? At best, you were allowed a couple of bundles of rotten wood once or twice a year. Just small bundles, not big ass bundles, but you know. And, or maybe 2 appliances. You weren't allowed 2 bundles of wood, 2 appliances, and 2 box springs. That was too many. You were only allowed 2 things. Okay. Anytime an appliance went out, it sat in the back and nobody helped me to get rid of them. It would become a heat score eventually. Whatever, we all know that. The point is the city never provided a proper annual spring cleanup like other districts do, where it's once a year, you got a week to go through whatever you want to go through and put it out on a road, outside of paints and those kind of things, right? And tires and whatever, right? Okay, they never provided that. Because in my mind, people, it's just a means to use people's yards, whether they're the actual homeowner living on the property or whether they're landlords, I suppose, with tenants against them. As a cost-saving measure to the city, but not only is it a cost-saving measure to the city, right, but it's also a means to manipulate the people in the community and get them to do what you want them to do as a city, as they expect the victims to that process to pay for it. And I am the victim to this, people, because, and this is what I mean by extortion, I feel like I got extorted. Okay, I have a personal loan of up to $20,000. I can at max borrow $2,000 more to pay for what just happened. Because my landlady, you see, here's the thing. City shows up, says whatever. My son's willing to get a bin. He priced it out, told me the quote, and I said, wait, let me talk to the landlord first. Maybe she can get a better deal. Phoned her. Oh, no, don't have your son do that. I will get one. It will be dropped off for free. It doesn't cost anything to drop it off, only the weight. Don't worry. I'll bring a bin. Okay? She brings a bin. Then she says it's only there for 3 days. Yeah, no, that was, I don't know what that was, people. That was a setup. Okay? Because once it got here, the word everything, get rid of everything, all of a sudden popped up out of nowhere, and it felt like it was an eviction done by a sheriff, where I got completely locked out. Okay? And isn't that what happens? You end up having to pay for all that shit? Well, okay, the agreement was get the bin, I pay a third, she pay a third, because don't forget, you know, like, those were her beams and whatnot, right? You know, right? Not whatever. You know, where has she been in this yard for the last 14 years? Where was her son over the last couple of years when I was begging and pleading for him to come and help me with the fence, to deal with the fence not falling down? If her son would have came and done what I asked him to do in those 2 years, the fence would still be standing up. And we could have addressed whatever it was that was, because you don't think it wasn't annoying me, people. I just burned out. I can't see very well, right? Nobody is sympathetic to my situation. I wasn't getting any help. Like, wait till the weather warms up and things, right? Okay, so anyway, calm down. Don't get worked up because I'm already like this. I've been like this for a month and a half. I want to freaking cry because it ain't over yet, people. I'm going to be $1,600 to $2,000 in the hole, capping my personal loan of $20,000 freaking dollars just to so I can have a place to fucking live for at least a little while until the next attack. And that's just the way I see it because I experienced that. And this is a very dangerous precedence, people. When somebody can come into your life, go into your yard, and, right, gut your garage. Get rid of everything, right? And not be held to account to theft. And then expect you to pay for it. As you lose thousands of dollars. And I'm a small fry in that pile of problem. There are other people out there that have more expensive items, whether it's cars, trailers, trucks, better quality building materials, better quality equipment. You might even want to say better quality yard play equipment, or whatever, better fucking nicer looking planter pots, whatever it is, people. And maybe they're losing 20, 30, 40,000, 50,000, $100,000 worth of their goods because the city came in with or without the landlord, because you don't really know who to trust. But definitely city, with wielding whatever it is that they're wielding at me here, and they took out everything. Imagine if you lost $100,000 of something on your property that had more value than what I lost. I feel like and it's impossible to stand up and fight for myself, because I feel like I'm in freaking Honduras fighting the cartel, and the cops are crooked, everybody's taking bribes, and if I don't pay my blood money, my family is taken out. I'm being held hostage to this, because to try and take the city to court by myself is like fruitless. You know, I don't need my son to remind me of that, people. I know that. But I would do it on principle, because what they've done is a bad precedence for others to have happen to them. And if they get away with it with me, because they have, okay, that we know, they'll just get more vicious about it. Now, I was speaking to my neighbor over here who's facing eviction, 76 years old with no place to go, and she was saying that the duplex next over to her, the owner of that property, as well as these people over here in the alley beside me, both of them are being harassed, and they're owners who live in or don't want to sell, right? They don't want to sell their properties, right? But the people that are building where my friend lives, I guess them and whoever else, they want to buy those 2 duplexes, because it's duplex. And they're pressuring those homeowners. One is rental, duplex. The other one, the actual people live in the duplex. And they don't want to sell. But they're being pressured, apparently, constantly from these property developers to sell. So it is possible for homeowners to be targeted as well. It's not just the tenants. Okay? Everybody's got something to lose here if you're being targeted. I was definitely targeted, and I do believe that the city is trying to free up a house to house immigrants. I do. I really, really do. To get those kickbacks from the province through, a transfer fund of sorts, as well as the federal government, to get those kickbacks being transferred in from a federal government portfolio in order to house a Syrian family of 7 or to 8 people of upstairs at $3,000 a month, with whoever in the basement at $2,500 a month, in light of what I built in this yard, people, because it's a nice yard after you clear out everything, right? You know what I'm saying? If the city of Surrey would have provided a proper annual cleanup, none of this would have happened. They would not have been in a position of power to do this to me and then make me pay for it. Do you understand what I'm trying to say here? So therefore, they're withholding public services. They are withholding public services so that they can extort vulnerable individuals. Again, with or without the landlord's assistance, okay? For profit. And quite possibly bribes. Because, there's different ways to make profit, right? As an individual, you'd be willing to take a bribe, or at least a bonus on your paycheck for every house that you can evict as a bylaw officer. And if it means gutting a yard to start there to get the process rolling, well, just doing his job, because he's thinking about that $5,000 extra that he's going to get under the table. I'm just saying. Not to mention what the city gets from the province and from the federal government in terms of a transfer payment to house a Syrian family. Or a family from wherever. Doesn't matter. With the UN soldiers in the basement. I'm just saying. Or it could be a bunch of Chinese students. Who knows? Could be anybody. But it's going to be a whole whack of them down there, that's for sure. And a whole whack of them on the upstairs. Well, my landlord benefits from it. But you see, my landlord, Mr. Gill, he's going out the door. He's not going to live that much longer. I'd be very surprised if he lives for another 10 years. Mrs. Gill, oh, I could see that. She's an old tough bird. She'll probably live for 20. She'll surprise everybody. I'm just saying. But Mr. Gill, no. He'll be lucky to live another 10 years. He's not interested in money. Seriously, he's telling me to plant flowers. He told me his money is my money is his money, and to not worry about what's going on right now and just plant flowers. And I'm like, how could you possibly say that? That's what he told me, right? I said, Canada is a terrible country. Don't you see what's going on here? He says, yeah, I know, I see. He says, but no, this is better than other countries. And I suppose from a man that's, I think he's 86 now, 86? I think Mrs. Gill is 84 and he's 86. I can hear it in his voice, right? But from a man that's traveled the world in terms of gone to India back and forth and da-da-da-da and da-da-da, I'm sure he's, you know, he I don't know, I don't think he's ever experienced it. I'm down on the floor with dust. And, but, you know, he's seen poverty in a way that I've never seen it directly because of where he originates from and he goes back to and has been all these years as an Indian going back to India. So, in light of 20 million children being homeless in India. Last time I checked, 20 million being homeless in India as a country. Well, we know that the poverty level is completely different compared to out here. So in that sense, I could agree with him. Hold on a minute. I gotta get on my hands and knees and wash these floors because of the mud and all the crap that's been... Okay, so anyway, I can respect what he says. And I tell him, you sound like my son. That's what my son says to me. Oh, your son's smart. And I'm like, yeah, well, either or. At the end of the day, this hasn't been a cakewalk for me. This has been extremely, extremely hard for me, right? Well, Mrs. Gill is saying, the city wants me to kick you out. The city wants me to kick you out. Why, people? Why would the city want me to kicked out? When that guy came to my door, you heard him on the recording. What did he say? Well, we want to keep it looking nice for the buildings being built. You know, we got an image. Like, he didn't say it in those words, but that's basically what he said. You know, you got to keep it looking pristine because of these buildings being built. Well, we already know my stance on that. They're shadow buildings, right? For the most part, it's just a means to launder money, right? Whether it's from fentanyl sales, organ parts, or casinos, or whatever people do. And to get foreign investors to invest into the country, whether they live here or not. To prop up a tax base. That's it. Oh, this is not working. Hold on a minute. Okay, so I came here now. I have to get off the floor. Anyway, as I was saying, whatever it was. So, city doesn't provide annual spring cleanup for an agenda. Clearly. And they're using it to their advantage to manipulate local neighborhoods as to who gets housing and who doesn't. Because they use yards as a focal point to target the household. And that's my experience. It's not my opinion, people. It's my experience. If they're not targeting you to work, build, whatever, right? Like I said, they let me keep my stuff in the past. How many times? 3 times. They let me keep the wood. They let me keep the cement slabs. They had me out in the yard for 10 months straight, 5 days, 7 days a week, 12 hours a day to complete the job after it was all ripped up and it had already been completed out in the front when it came to laying down the walkways. Right, okay. Yada. But now that everything's basically been built, it just needs minor repairs here and there, right? Or a little touch up or whatever. The walkways have been basically laid down to the best of my ability, right? they don't need me anymore. And because I'm blind and I can't work hard and fast and keep up with the demand of this yard, which is extremely, it's extreme yard maintenance, people. It's not routine. It's never been routine, okay? You know, and they want to get those kickbacks from the province and the federal government to house immigrants, whether they're the UN soldiers, a whole bunch of guys coming in at one time by themselves, put them to work or whatever they do with them, I don't know, or whether they're students, or whether they're actual families coming in with whole government assistance to pay the exorbitant rent, which is enticing for landlords, which is enticing. Right? It encourages landlords to become corrupt, to chase the money. Right? If you kick her out, we can put a Syrian family in, and you can guarantee your $3,000 a month just for upstairs. Oh, you're only getting $2,250? Hell, kick her out, and we'll move in our people through these programs that we're connected with through, you know, local nonprofits facilitating the transactions at the direction of the city and the province and I guess the federal government. Yeah, that's my experience. That's because I see what moves in. I see how people are treated. I see what's going on. I'm experienced in this, people. Anyway, my neighbor was telling me, I know I'm bouncing, on her street, it's looking pretty shabby when it comes to yards, I suppose, where particular houses, one in general, that's been designated as a crack shack, has had SWAT there 3 times over the course of the last year, with a dead body, being taken out of there. I talked about it in my video when that happened, in a hammock. I'm going to explain to her why they do that. They take him out in a hammock, a dead body, to hide the perfusion machine. Because a hammock you can't see, right? You can't see a box sitting on the chest. It's a machine that has 3 ports. They plug it in somewhere down by the groin, and there's 3 tubes, right? Plug it in, plug it in, plug it in. And then what that does is it starts to flush out the organs inside the body and get them ready for surgery. They don't have to take out organs anymore and flush them out before surgery. They do it while the organs are in the body. Because otherwise, if it's a dead body, right, the body dude guy comes with his vehicle, right, and puts the body in a body bag on a gurney and then wheel him out in a body bag. No, not if they're running perfusion machines. Because you'd have this big bulge on the bag, right? Body bag would be flat. They need the cover of the hammock to hide the perfusion machine, and these things are small. I told her that. She's like, And I'm like, well, if you've been through what I've been through with Shimei and Sierra, you would know this. You'd figure it out. If you look up perfusion machines that they have now these days that they use to flush out organs while organs are inside bodies, you would connect the dots. You would understand why they're not putting them in body bags. Right? So anyway, that house has a whole bunch of crap in front of it too. Like a whole bunch. Right? And then there's another house that has a camper out in front with a whole bunch of shit in front. They don't get bothered by the city. Right? And then, I guess further on down is another African booze can. So there's actually 2 African booze cans within a 1-block radius. One over there, and one down towards where Pastor Granny lived, off of 132A, which is just not even 5 minutes away. Yeah. She said, I need to go look at these yards, because she doesn't understand what's going on with me, right? She told me to get the media involved. I'm like, well, it's not that easy, right? You know what I'm saying? Right? As if they'd come to my house to report what's going on. Because right now, everybody's blaming me for this, right? Because I'm the easy target to blame, right? And if you notice, they're doing it at my weakest point in terms of, I'm elderly now, 63, worn out, worked like a dog for years and years and years and years and years and years. I'm like astronomically high in debt because of losing family members and then having to absorb the cost to be able to keep the house running as the income drops in the house, right? Because my son didn't pick up on the income. No. Shimei died, that income was gone. Sierra was kicked out, that income was gone. Joan went into long-term care, that income was gone. Uncle John was medically kidnapped, that income was gone. Right? So what do you think I was doing all these years? I was racking up my credit cards, right? And then, of course, the food prep, that took a big chunk of it, right? But in my mind, I'm being responsible because at least I can pay the rent and not have to worry about quote-unquote food in light of what's going on in our economy. But people don't see it like that because they see it like, well, you're poor. You don't deserve to have food security. Never mind a house to live in anymore. Because that's the point where we're at. You don't deserve to live in a house anymore because you're poor, even though I've been here for 14 years and I made it where I can pay the rent and still have food in the house. And I suppose tap into my last $2,000 because that's all I can do for cut a check on my personal loan, which is going to bring it up to $20,000 that I owe to pay for what the city has done to me. With or without the direction of my landlords, quote unquote. I'm a little suspicious about my landlady because I know how she is. She's stuck in her ways. Because she was too quick to get rid of everything. And then when they came, after the bin was taken, all of a sudden they were in the yard, so of course I had to go outside and talk to them, right? That's when I finally got to speak to Mr. Gill. And, he telling me, it's your money, my money, it's everybody, just don't get stressed. I guess he was trying to say, don't get stressed out about money or whatever, because he was saying that, they were saying that the city was threatening to charge them $20,000 to do what my son did. And as a landlord being gang-stalked for their house, with the city using the yard as the excuse to kick out the tenant so they can free up the house for those kickbacks with the province and the federal government by bringing in immigrants into the house at a higher cost to the landlord, which is kind of like a bribe. Kick her out. Don't worry. We'll fill it up. You'll make 2-3 times the money. That's like a bribe, people, right? But where's the extortion? Am I the one being extorted here, though? Right? They could have waited till May for me to have that wood loaded up in something, whether it was my son's truck, which wouldn't have been big enough, or the bin that was delivered, or a bin like that, and had it dropped off at the city where it didn't cost me any money to dispose of it. But no, they want to bankrupt me. They don't think I have $2,000 sitting in the bank, and I don't. But I do have it available on a personal loan. Will it be enough? I don't know. Because my landlady said, because I asked him, I said, well, how much is it costing for the bin? First they said $1,100 for the first bin, right? Because of all that heavy, frozen, water-saturated wood. That's basically what it went in there. And that's 14 years. And that stuff also borders along, garden beds that my son dug up, and because, they had been there for 10, 12 years, 14 years, okay? So, and now he's putting rocks there instead of, whatever, okay? So, they're making me pay for something that's been in the ground for 12 years as they were advertising my garden beds. And the only reason it was a garden bed was because of those beams that were buried into the ground to make the border, to make the garden bed. But if you notice, I'm the one paying to get rid of them. And not only did I pay to get rid of them, but they were completely water saturated as well as frozen. And anyone that knows anything, you know, when you're buying meat in the freaking grocery stores, like a frozen turkey, right? You buy a 5-pound turkey, and by the time you thaw it out, it's like maybe 3.5 pounds because the water came out of it. The water came out of it. Well, that's what I was paying for with the first bin. So $1,100, $300 discount, which brings it down to $800. Okay, so the first bill is $800, and that was a lot of heavy, water-saturated frozen wood that could have waited till May, right? Or better yet, if the city of Surrey would have provided an annual spring cleanup year after year after year, like other districts do, they wouldn't have a leg to stand on because that shit would have been gone a long time ago, people. And you see, that's where it becomes extortion. It becomes a setup. Right? Because, you know, I mean, how was I supposed to get it out of here? Right? Even when I could see, I had no vehicle. Right? Nobody was crying on about getting rid of all that wood. As a matter of fact, they were leaving the wood with me because I was building. So I was completely blindsided when they started saying get rid of everything. Okay? Not only the good wood, I mean the bad wood, which could have been, right, dealt with Corey coming, helping me with the fence. We could have went and said, okay, now we got the bin, right? You know, what else? Give me some ideas. Oh, you got any rotten wood around the yard? Well, actually, yeah, I do. It's over there. It's over there. You know, I have to kind of hide it and let it hopefully decompose on its own because I'm not supposed to throw it into the city bin. And ain't nobody helping me to get rid of it. And I can't put it out in the spring cleanup because we don't have it. But now that we've got this, like, yeah, just, you know, help me get it out because maybe some of it's too heavy for me to lift, right? Because I was the only one out there working, people. But no. They had to let it fucking sit there and then use it against me out of the blue. Boom. With the city guy saying, kick her out. Well, if that's the case, why don't you kick out the people from the fucking crack shack? That seems to me that crack shack's been running out there for over a year now with SWAT there 3 times. And dead bodies being taken out of there in hammocks with perfusion machines hooked up to it. And that's what we know of so far. You know, they're not going to shut that down. Hell no. They let this one next door run for how long? Almost 2 years. Yeah. And then it was one big gong show when they did finally shut it down just to show people that they were supposedly doing something. Whatever. Okay. So, stay focused. Okay. So, now it could be more than $2,000 because after the second bin was taken, I spoke to my landlady the next day after I decided, well, fuck, because she told me she didn't want to pay, even though she at first said she'd pay a third. But the bin was only supposed to be here for 3 days, but then as fast as it got here, it was here for almost 2 months, with the order not only from her, but from the city to get rid of everything. And that's what makes me suspicious about her. Because when she was out here, you know, when they came, I went out and I said to them, this has been so hard on me, like, you don't even know, right? Like, this is like right? At the end of it, she still wasn't satisfied. Oh, well, you need to get rid of this. Right? Because I said to her, like she was complaining. Oh, the city wants me to kick you out and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, and I'm like, well, what do you want from me, Mrs. Gill? Like, I'm looking at her like, I'm going like this because I can't see very well. So I'm trying to really connect with her, right? And I'm like, well, what do you want from me? Like you, right? Like, I've given you my life. Like, what more is, I didn't say that, but like, what more can I, like, fuck people. I didn't sew for 14 years. I went blind for working in the grit and the mud and the sand and the histamines and the algae and the fucking raccoon shit and blaring under the sun for 12 hours and freezing in the cold and being sopping wet, coming in mud in my house. Like, what more do you want from me? Right? You know what I'm saying? I didn't say it to her like that, though. Like, what more? Like, what do you want from me? Get rid of that. I'm looking in this big planter pot. Don't forget, I already spoke to Mr. Gill, and he's telling me to plant flowers and not worry that his money is my money and my money is his money, and it's all going to iron itself out. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. That's not, like, that doesn't make, like, how can you say that? Because this is, for me, it's like living in the freaking Congo. I said, Canada is a terrible place. He said, no. Out of other countries is better. And I'm like, you sound like my son now. He laughing, eh? And I'm like, yeah, well, when you're walking in my shoes, no. Nothing's good about Canada. Because they're making money. They've been making money. From the moment I stepped into that yard and started working in this yard and gave it my all. Yeah, sure, granted, they can still get their $3 million, right? But they have the added amenities because of what I've done. It's just, I got sick. I know I got sick because I'm always busy. I ignore my sickness. I mean, my nose has been running for years and the whole 9 yards, and I'm worn out. And then the eyes kicked in. It's been like 2 years and a bit since I've been basically blind. And that's really hard, people. You don't even know. And then to get up and find out that it gets worse however, and yes, things do provoke it. And this little stint in the yard made it even 10 times worse. But what are you going to do? So I'm like, well, what do you mean? Like, so many are gone. No, you're supposed to get rid of them all. I said, how can you say that, Mrs. Gill? Like, just, like, and then she looking, and she wants me to go out there and weed. She's pointing at this, and I'm like, well, what else, Mrs. Gill? What do you want me to do out here? Because she's not satisfied because it's raining, it's gray in terms of haze, and everything's gray because nothing's green. And she wants me to go out there and weed. So she's pointing in this one spot up by the rabbit hutch. And I don't know, I can't see very well. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'll try and do that in the next couple of 2-3 days. I have to still do laundry. I'm washing shit, and I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to put shit. And, I washed that winemaking bottle in the bucket and everything. And, I got another bag with parts that go with that, in terms of like the temperature thing and to test the acidity with more brushes and the whole 9 yards. So before I sell that winemaking kit, I need to find that, because that ended up in the garage, and I rescued it and I brought it upstairs, I'm sure, because I don't think I would have put it back downstairs because it would have been thrown out again. So it's up here somewhere, but I have to look for it. And then once I find it, hopefully I'll find it, I'll get an extra $30-40 for that winemaking kit. That if my grandson wouldn't have seen it out in the bin, it would have been gone. Right? And why did that happen? It happened because of the city being overzealous to get me kicked out, to build a case, to piss off my landlord, to threaten everybody with fines, right? Telling us to clear out a garage that we've been using for 14 years, using rats as rodents as the excuse, when in fact my son hasn't even caught one yet, because the cats are on the job. That's what I told the city dude. Like, I don't got a problem with rats. So you get one moving in here and there. Sooner or later, the cats are going to kill it, right? And trust me, if I had inside rats, I'd be going fucking crazy. Sorry, boo-boo crazy with it, because I do have food prep in the house, so I'd be on it like ASAP. But I don't have that problem. So, 14 years, and because my son started his business, he had tools in the garage. He wasn't a metal recycler. He wasn't collecting garbage. He wasn't doing that. He had his work tools in there, people, for his business, and a few other things. As he was dismantling my old rotten dressers, right, and to make more space for himself so he could have what he wanted, which, whatever. But no, the city said, get it out, everything. And so my son panicked because I had already offered him the shed. He overreacted, got angry, took it out on my shit, non-profit stuff that was in there, which ended up in the bin, including that winemaking kit. I got videos up here that I want to take downstairs and I can't. If I ask him to put them up in the attic, he'll get mad at me. He won't help me. I really don't have no place to put them. But when I move, I'm making plans to be in one big room with a big mattress on the floor for Amari, with those bean bags and whatnot, right? So he doesn't hurt himself, with a couch, with an easy recliner, you know, easy boy recliner, and quite possibly a single bed there, off to the side, with some, you know, bookshelves, stuff on it, Shimei's keyboard piano, maybe another little piano, keyboard, like a smaller keyboard, but Shimei has a keyboard piano. I would have preferred the piano that got broken, but I don't get the privilege to have that. But besides that point, my old TV with the old VCR with the videos. That's why I keep them, because Andre wants them too. But I get criticized for it. So, but I guess they were in the shed. So when I said he threw out $4,000 worth of videos, I don't know. I don't think so. I think he just put them in the shed and never told me about it. So I was being hasty. I was assuming. Andre, that water is boiling. Right? Now that I got them back, I find it kind of strange that I got them back, but I have no place for them because I can't put them back in the shed because my son won't let that happen because, you know, I already given it to him, right? So he agreed that we won't gut out anymore until spring because I'd like to do it basically all in one day. You know, do the sweep, look for anything that's compromised and rat-proof it, give it a good spray, wash whatever needs to be washed if it's being put back. If not, you know, decide what you're going to do with it after the fact. If I don't want it...
Wash your cup or no?
Yeah, rinse it out, please, or get me a new one. You know, I mean, it depends what's in there. I don't know. I don't know what's left anymore, people. What was that?
Just meowing back at Willie.
I thought that was Amari. No. And whatever else was in there. So the bags of whatever children's stuff and all went into the second bin. Only because the city said gut the garage. And my son panicked and didn't know what else to do and sacrificed my stuff for more valuable items, I suppose. And I can understand why he'd do that. And then he thought, well, since the bin's here, we'll just take advantage of it and throw out even more stuff. Huh. Easy for you to say. You're not the one that lost $5,500 worth of shit. I don't even have sticks to plant beans with. I suppose I could ask him when he goes on the job site if he can cut me some tree branches and bring me back some tree branches because I refuse to buy freaking
no.
bean poles. Huh?
He'll probably say no.
Well, I'm not buying bean poles. I'm not spending anything that I don't have to. No way. No way. But I don't have nothing no more. Very little. Like those white things, those white pipings and stuff, could have used those, but no, they're gone. All right, so my landlady, you know, they said when I phoned her about how much it is for the second bin, she said it was going to cost more than $1,100. Now I don't know if that includes the discount or not, but we'll just take it for face value. The first one was $1,100. With the water-saturated frozen wood, mainly, right? Because anything metal, he big pile. I don't even think I have to fix the freaking leak on the stairs. Like, seriously, like I'm so hooped. Like, you don't even know, people. Okay, so that was mostly just wood, whether good wood or bad wood, okay? We'll just say rotten wood. We're not going to consider weather-worn wood to be rotten. There is a difference between weather-worn and rotten. First bin, that's what went in there. Was mainly those two things. At $1,100 with the $300 discount, which means I owe $800 because my landlord doesn't want to pay anything, even though she said to me the bin was only going to be here for 3 days. It didn't cost anything to bring it here, and that she would pay a third. All of a sudden, she switched up on me, but I'm not going to argue with her, okay? Because I'm just not, people. I just not. And you know, with my son screaming that he's out $3,000 of labor, I can't ask him to give me a third, because he likes to hold grudges, and he'll never let me live it down. He'll forever fucking blame me, even though he had 14 years to come out and help me.
Sure.
All right.
Gonna make myself some noodles.
Stop eating them so much. I told you they're gonna make you sick. That is your last pack for a long time. It's not funny. You'll end up in the hospital with them. I'm not saying it again. All right. So, the second time around, when I phoned her, she said it's going to cost more money because of water. I said, water? Yeah, there was a lot of plastic in there. Because he started whatever he did out there, as well as whatever he did with the shed. And don't forget, there was some other new stuff in there that I do believe came from the bedroom, from Tisha's bedroom. I do. I'm just not looking, because I'm sick of this, people. I'm so sick. Like, you don't even know. Like, I swear, it would be enough to tip me over the edge and bring on a full-blown freaking nervous breakdown if I went down there and figured it out that they were throwing shit out from Tisha's room just because of this whatever. Just thinking about it makes me want to explode in terms of tears and just, I don't know. I've never had a nervous breakdown before. People want me to, but I said, water? She goes, yeah. She said there was a lot of plastic in there with bags and stuff, and
Can I make macaroni?
yeah, that'd be better. And it rained, and I guess they filled up.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
You remember what?
Big heavy rain.
There was a big heavy rain?
Yeah, the bin filled up really bad. I tried crying out as much water as I could, but
Oh, yeah.
yeah, my boots were soaked.
You heard it. I slept through it. I slept through that rain. I wasn't even aware that it rained heavy. I'm surprised the garage didn't flood. Or maybe it did. I don't know. God forbid if it did. But I didn't hear anything
No,
about
it
it.
didn't.
No, it didn't. So, okay.
Warning. It was like when I was working outside.
Huh?
It happened when I was working outside.
Anyway, so it flooded. It, like, the bin got saturated with a really heavy, heavy rain, and Andre tried to remove some of the water. But, so she said that we're paying for water. Well, she's not paying for water. I'm paying for water. Because it's going to cost more than $1,100 because of that water, even though the stuff that went in there was lighter than the wood that went in the first bin. How does that work? I mean, come on, people. Like, does that even seem reasonable? Seems like a setup to me. Right? Stupid. Either or, it all was instigated by the city. Whether my landlady made the phone call to the city to complain, because on the 1st of January, she raised the rent. She asked my son to help start cleaning up the yard, because, whatever. And he said he would. He got out there between the 1st and the 12th and was already starting to do it. All of a sudden, the city showed up, and then it became within 3 days. As soon as the bin got here, it became get rid of everything. With the city guy coming to my door, saying the same thing. Get rid of everything. And then when I asked him to be specific, I had to help him narrow it down to at least the planter pots. And then he agreed that, well, at least half of them. Because it's unreasonable to ask somebody that's been living on a property for 14 years to get rid of everything all of a sudden, out of the blue, including planter pots. Like, something's fishy. And if that's the case, then that is a very bad precedence to establish for others. But because I am poor, completely tapped out with my financial situation when it comes to covering the cost of being extorted. I'm helpless to do anything about it. So because they get away with it once, they'll get away with it again and again, and they're going to roll up on some guy's property that has a couple of vehicles there. Maybe he works on it a little bit on the side, on one car as a collector's car, and he has a few things in the yard or whatever, and the city's just going to go in for the swoop. And they're going to steal his shit too. And instead of being $5,500 worth of shit, teddy bears, kids stuff, children's play yard equipment, wood that could be used somewhere else, garbage buckets that are still good, that kind of stuff, right? Whatever. A total of 5,500 bean poles that somebody else can use, right? Because they were still usable, all right? Maybe his will be $100,000. What difference if it's $100,000 being stolen from you, or $5,500, $5,500 being stolen from you? Does the guy with the $100,000 being taken away from him, his belongings, does his story become more important than my story? Or is my story just as equal as his because both of us got robbed? Thievery is thievery. This was an illegal seizure of my property without being charged with anything, without due process, without going to court, without having fair representation to say, well, if the city really wanted that to happen, they should have been on it with this annual spring cleanup. And they could have came to me and said, look, we've got an issue, right? You know, we got annual spring cleanup in May. This is how you do it, right? If you need to call us for more information, call us. But we'd like you to try and do something before we actually have to kick you out. But there's no benefit in that, because there's kickbacks by housing the immigrant. And some of these landlords are getting corrupted by it. So maybe that's what my landlord meant, Mr. Gill. Because he said, we're family. I'm like, family? Huh, okay. Well, it doesn't feel like that to me, because everybody's blaming me for every single thing that goes on wrong around here with nobody. That's like, you know, the Chicken Little, right? You know, the sky is falling. Or the little hen, you know, the little hen, she goes out and, you know, she digs the ground, she gets it ready for planting, and she plants the seeds, and she waters it, and, you know, everything grows, she harvests it, you know, then she takes it to the mill, and then she starts to mill the wheat, and then she takes that. After she's done doing that, then she goes home and she cooks the cake. Not one person helped her with none of that. But as soon as the cake is done, and it's on the table, and it's ready to eat, all of a sudden, everybody comes running to the table and saying, where's my share? That's what's going on here. And she just said, no, you didn't help. Go away. You don't get a piece of cake. Well, I wish life was that simple. I'm hanging on an edge. Literally, well, on that mountain. And my landlady, it's miserable weather. She knows I've been through hell and back. Whether she enjoys it or not, I don't know. I feel like I'm dealing with a dual personality with my landlady, because in times of good, I suppose you could say, you know, it's like she comes to me and she just wants to be free and just be that child, right? Running through the yard as if she was a little 5-year-old, little 6, 7-year-old girl, picking blueberries, picking tomatoes, picking cucumbers, or whatever, climbing a tree, all right? And because I can relate to that, because I used to climb trees when I was 5, Right? I nurture that. Okay, go ahead, Mrs. Gill. You're 82 years old and you want to climb a tree, no problem. I'm right here. I'll catch you. And don't worry, I'll break your fall. I will get hurt before you. That's what I mean by nurture. But, you know, that's not, in the real world, that's not important. What's important is $5,500 a month and keeping up with the Joneses in terms of that fake image so that you can feel, I don't know, where my landlord, Mr. Gill, is on a different playing field. Like I said, we worked in the field in the past life because he's the one that says we were family or years in the past, in a second reincarnated life. Yeah, we were field, you know what. Only you're not one anymore, but I am. I'm here to remind people that slavery still exists. That's why I go through this. Where with him, he knows, but at the end of the day, he's not facing that anymore. Right? Because he had different opportunities. My opportunities were limited down to a foundation that nobody cared about and just wanted to take advantage of and oppress. And any other opportunities after that were taken away by this yard. Without me fully realizing that they were being taken away, because I always felt like I could get a handle on it and get back to my own life. But I've never gotten back to my life. And now that I'm blind, I don't think I'll ever have the life that I used to have in terms of sewing and that kind of stuff. So I'm trying to learn how to adapt around it. But people don't want me to have anything because of just what's going on with the general consensus of society in general being so self-centered and self-serving and just whatever. Hoping, I don't know what the hell people are hoping for. So anyway, I can cut her a $2,000 check. To me, it's extortion money. Do I feel like they're extorting me, per se? Like in terms of my landlords? Or is it the city? I feel like it's the city. If I had to say who is extorting me, I would say it was the city. And then, in terms of my landlords, well, you know, they've had plenty of time to come to me and say, okay, let's do this, what do you think about it? And I'd be like, well, yeah, I got wood over there, and, you know, there's things that we can do, and yeah, it makes sense, let's do it, right? But nobody ever came to me, nobody ever offered me any help, right? You know what I'm saying? So, you know, there's a fine line in there where, you know, I mean, we're not all on the ball. I'm not always on the ball. I can't expect them to be always on the ball. Like I said, I take my landlord, what he says, for face value, but I also feel like, you know, I don't think that he gets the full information as to what his family is doing behind his back. That's just how I feel about it. I feel like they're gonna, you know, they kind of treat him like an Uncle John, keep him hidden away like a dirty secret. Don't get him maybe so involved with decision making because he's getting older. And now that I can hear in his voice that he's aging, I can just hear it, right? And he's not as strong as he used to be physically, right? Because I can hear it, right? You know, he's going to be more at risk to be taken advantage of and have things hidden away from him so that whoever is manipulating the situation can go behind his back and do things for money. And in this situation, you know, yeah. So, I don't know. And then with my landlady still not satisfied and wanting me to go out there and weed, knowing that I can't see very well, I think I know what she wants, and I will. I'll try. And like Marquette didn't put all those planter pots with the rocks away, and so that to me, like this people, you know, like because the city, well, you didn't do it, you still got that there, and you still got that red thing there with the tiles, and I'll be like, yeah, but you know, I've been through a lot here, and I got shit I got to do inside the house. I have to still, you know, I only got one load of laundry done, people, just one load. I'm washing shit in my bathtub that belonged outside. Like, what the hell? And I'm buying food, so I have to put that away, but I stopped now. What little bit I did buy after the fact of buying those green peas and stuff, I'm done. Because I have to pay down my bills again and get ready for the next attack. And I have backup just in case. Because I do feel like they're trying to bankrupt me. They've been trying to bankrupt me for years. No, they in terms of the gang stalkers. Right? It's unusual to have so many family members die or disappear in a short period of time, where it becomes like feeling like you live in the Congo. Only shit like that happens in those kind of countries. Honduras, the Congo, you know, places like that, right? Venezuela, where there's those hardcore gangs that expect blood money from you just so that you can live, period. And this is a dangerous precedent. And I don't know if the city is using me as a test water to see how far they can get away with it. But then they're also not dumb either. They're going to go for the weakest of the weak, knowing that I can't go get a lawyer. Because if you have $100,000 worth of shit in your yard, and the city comes in and takes it away from you as they gut your garage that you've been using since you owned your house. I'm just using it as from a homeowner's perspective. If they want your house, they can use your yard against you and your garage to bankrupt you and wipe you out through whatever method that they did with me and not be held to account. But someone like that might be in a better position to be able to hire a lawyer to try and fight back. If you have $100,000 worth of shit in your yard, in your garage, in terms of cars and, you know, that bring up that kind of value, right? Versus children's toys and wood and tools and garbage cans, chicken wire, plastic, tarps, that kind of crap. You know, chances are you're going to be able to go hire a lawyer and fight back. But someone like me, they know I can't fight back. They're trying to piss off my landlords so that my landlords do kick me out. Yeah. And if they're so interested in kicking out people, why don't they shut down that fucking crack shack over there? It's been running for well over a year, going on 2 years now, with SWAT showing up every few months. Why don't they shut down these booze cans? You got one booze can 5 minutes over there, and you got one booze can right across the street. Why aren't they shutting that shit down? Right? You got, my neighbor said, go down the street and look at other people's yards and see what they look like. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. I'll bring my camera. We'll go talk about what's going on in other people's yards. But even if you keep them nice and neat and tidy, well, what happens? You've got these foreign investors running their shady freaking companies, kicking everybody out onto the street to tear down the houses, to build the shadow buildings. My neighbor said that 55 and over, one side of the building is practically completely dark. Like nightly, right? Where there's just one or two little suites with maybe somebody moving around inside. On the other side, there tends to be more lights. But just because there's lights on doesn't mean that somebody's living there. Because, remember I said in 2016, through my previous videos, I'm going to end it on this, there was a problem with these Chinese mainly, right? And I'm not saying it was just Chinese people doing it from China, but, you know, they were buying up all the properties, kicking everybody out, and then kept the buildings empty with their timer lights, you know, that are set to come on and go off, right, to make it look like something. And it got to the point where the province wanted to start putting heat sensors on the building because they couldn't trust the lights going on and off to verify that there was actually people living in those buildings. So when she mentioned that half of a building has lights, more so than the other half, I reminded her that just because a light came on doesn't mean that a human was actually in the suite. And she said, yeah, you're right. Yeah. So it's a very complicated situation. I lost $5,500 worth of stuff in my mind. I will take the time, assuming that I don't get attacked again soon, in light of my dreams, bad dreams. Right? I'm trying to interpret that dream with Amari, where he went missing. It was like a park setting with trees, you know, some grass, some bushes, you know, people kind of moving around. Andre was there, Amari was there. I turned around, Amari was gone. I'm like, holy crumb, I'm running around looking for Amari. I'm asking people if they seen Amari. Nobody said they seen him. I managed to get up high on something, but it wasn't like, I didn't climb, I just got up really, 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 really high. It was like high up in the sky, right? So much so that I could pan as if I was a Google search, right? From the, like a Google map, right? I'm looking, and over there was like a farmer's field with all these black, about this big, right? Planter pots, the kind that I have in the back, the kind that I like, the kind that were being taken away from me, all in a row. One row after another row after another row after another row, along like a farmer's field, right? So it was big, it was long, right? Like, right? And they were all empty. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm looking now where the trees and the bushes and the grass is to see if I could see maybe his foot sticking out or his arm or something, but nothing. I seen nothing, and then I woke up crying out his name. So I'm trying to analyze the planter pots in terms of what is my unconscious brain telling me, outside of, after everything that happened in this yard, I've been saying it's a godless, soulless, dead yard. Right? Because, like, you know, what you asking me after everything that's happened, and now I'm having to pay up to maybe $2,000 or even more for water and whatever, and you still want me to go out there and weed like tomorrow or in the 3 days before the city shows up, or even if the city wasn't showing up? Why, Mrs. Gill? Is that what you really want me to do, is to go out there and weed it now? And I'm sick, and I'm overwhelmed, and I'm scared, and I'm petrified, literally. And I don't trust the process because I know what's going on, which makes me more scared. And she wants me to weed and get dirty as my laundry piles up. And for what? So she's gonna, because, you know, come back, and I said, well, in terms of planter pots, just leave them for now, and when spring comes, then we'll go through it. We'll talk about it. Okay? If you really want it gone, then I'll have my son do it. But for now, like, just let us breathe for a minute. And that's what makes me a little suspicious about it with her. Because, like, why can she not have any sympathy for me? Outside of, she got that money on her mind. That's it. That's all I can think. That's it. Okay? Now, in terms of those planter pots with Amari, a farmer's field with a bunch of empty planter pots. It kind of made me think of a pauper's cemetery or a veteran's cemetery where you have all those little crosses with no names on them. As if Amari was in one of those empty planter pots with no name, in terms of how the surrounding community, based on how they treat my family and me, view us in regards to a disabled child, in terms of the worth of a disabled child. Dead, soulless, had spiritless, they were empty. One after another, after another, after another, after another, row after row after row after row in this huge farmer's field, as if you were growing wheat, that kind of field. So much so, it'll be like Google Map from the satellite. That's how high up I was, looking down for Amari. And I'm thinking. And the only thing I can think of is there's a whole lot of little Amaris out there that nobody gives a shit about. Yeah. And that's what the city of Surrey definitely stands for, in terms of how they treat their residents, as they speak with forked tongue with their shit that they write, trying to say that they care about Surrey residents, which is a bunch of crock. Yeah. Because it's the planter pots that stand out the most. In terms of, they represent, like, nothing. They're empty. Nothing was growing in them, people. There wasn't even dirt to grow anything in them. And there was too many of them to not be significant in terms of the importance of them outside of, that's how people trying to keep up with the Joneses, people trying to get their bag on, you know, stacking that cash or whatever, building wealth or whatever, that's how they view children like Amari. Empty, soulless nothings that mean nothing, that require nothing, that deserve nothing, and should be forgotten about in some pauper's field with a bunch of little crosses with no names on them, because it was planter pot after planter pot after planter pot after planter pot. And being that Amari was gone and I couldn't find him, he had no name. He lost his entity. He lost his entity. And when you take him to the field with a whole bunch of empty planter pots, there's a whole lot of little Amaris in there. Because you have to remember, all my non-profit children's stuff is being thrown out in the bin. Okay, that's not just one child's stuff. That's a whole bunch of children. That's the community. That's the children in the community, people, being trashed, being thrown out, being treated like garbage. Okay? At the direction of the city. Whether my landlord instigated or not, it was the city that instigated it and made it happen. Who are, I don't want to say incapable, but don't want to compromise and give people a fair shake, because they have an ulterior motive to get their kickbacks from the province and from the federal government, as well as from those crooked landlords that want to kick out their tenants and will bribe bylaw officers to help them to do it, right, in order to get the higher rent increase. Like, there's just so many variables in there. While the small children, like Amari, who are vulnerable, maybe not disabled like Amari, but just vulnerable, hanging on the cliff with their parents, their grandmas, their grandpas, their aunts and their uncles, and their other caregivers in there, whoever, are being tossed just empty. Go away. You're useless. You're empty. You have nothing. You represent nothing. You don't even get to have a name on your planter pot. That's kind of how I equate that. And then that piece of paper on my door with the other dream. Oh my God. That one. Oh. What am I doing now? I'm opening my door, and the first thing I do is I'm looking to see if there's, and I'm like, I'm looking, waiting for the axe, right? That's what I mean. I'm living in perpetual fear. This is perpetual freaking fear. No wonder why I feel like crap. So that's where I'm at with things. I feel like I'm in Honduras, a place like that, where I'm being extorted by the cartel, or even in Mexico, that if I don't pay this blood money, however it's being paid, right, in terms of, you know, I have to pay for the bin, I lost $5,500 worth of stuff, I'm having to go outside and weed, and remove more planter pots or whatever the hell it is I got to do out there. And because I'm not out there for a couple of days, I'm having panic attacks around that, and I'm afraid that the city's going to come and reinforce what my landlord said and use that against us and saying, well, you didn't do it fast enough, it wasn't good enough, you had your warning, now we're going to have the city come in and finish the job, and they're going to try and charge me another $5,000 or $10,000. As if I can pull that out of my hat. I'd have to go, out on the streets and maybe hustle to pay blood money. As if a 63-year-old woman would make any money out there. What do you think? And then they would accuse me of being, you know what? And a poor role model to my grandkids. And then Amari goes missing. Yeah. So mission accomplished. They took out a family. What was left? After they've been targeting them for years. Yeah.